had one. And I said, no, the burger. He said, well, why'd you say sandwich? And I said, because a burger is a sandwich.
Yeah.
And he said, no, it's not. And
Yeah.
this has been an argument for
A
eight
burger
months.
is like the
It's a san-
peak
it's a san-
sandwich.
it's a sandwich. Everything about it is he's like, well,
It's
it's a
the
hot dog a sandwich.
perfect
I said,
sandwich. Hot dog is a
well, a hot
taco.
dog doesn't have to be a sandwich for a burger to be a sandwich because a burger is a piece of meat with cheese, lettuce, tomato, pickle, and on between two
Sesame
pieces of
seed
bread.
bun.
Oh yeah, sesame seed, and it's on a bun. Like
I'm gonna do this real quick. Okay.
oh,
I've already been recording, but now I can sync that up.
hell yeah! I wasn't even thinking about it.
I haven't lost yet! I'm saying I'm actually shocked you would ever have thought you could beat me with this loser shit.
What is this box?
It's the Pirate King's treasure. No idea what's inside, though. Oh, it's one of these things.
I can't believe my eyes.
We can't live
Well,
without them. I knew I should
whatever
have gone.
happens,
I'm only a-
happens.
I've said 10 out of 10. So why does it feel like something's missing?
You are now listening to Astro FM.
I found the quote I wanted. It was about before Shadow of the Erd Tree came out and him wanting to be more involved in the game than he already was. And it was
Miyazaki or George R. R. Martin? Oh, Miyazaki.
Miyazaki.
Yeah.
I wanted to really dive myself into the world. He talks about how he played the game for the first time before the DLC came out so he could really understand the game.
Yeah.
And it's just so funny.
I remember there's something he's like, I can't even beat this game.
Yeah, he's like,
This game is hard.
he's like, to prepare for this game, before the DLC, I played the game, the main story. And then I want to say I also suck at games.
Yeah. This is hard.
This is a yeah.
This
It's
game
like
is
he said.
hard.
He said, the open world allows like a lower skill level. And then he goes,
No, it does not.
that's what he says. He's like, but honestly, I might be the one who's like who's benefiting the most out of the entire player base
Yeah,
from it being a
having
little bit easier than past
other
games.
shit to do other than the hard thing you're getting your
Yeah.
ass whooped at. That's
It's
so
funny though, because he could just make himself like a one-hit guy. Like he made the
Yeah.
game.
Well, he wanted to be a real gamer.
He wanted to be a real gamer. I commend him for it.
Yeah.
I really do. And yeah, he said,
This
the freedom
was
of open
hard.
world of Elden Ring perhaps lowered the barrier to entry, and I might be the one who's benefiting the most from that as a player more than anyone else.
That's awesome.
And Baby
Anyway.
Cat's a manager.
All right. I have a whole little intro speech I'd like to get into.
Okay.
All right. Let me take you to a time long ago, before the plague of 2020. The year is 2019. Okay? It's been years since you felt a challenge. You're content with what you've got, but something is missing. Every game you've tried to play since Sekiro feels unplayable. Like you're not getting the rush you used to. Like when you beat Ornstein and Smo, which you know nothing about, young man.
Game won't.
So, this is so dumb. This intro is so funny. All of a sudden, you black out, and in fades. Is that an arm? You hear a blin, blin. And you know nothing about that either, young boy. We gotta get you playing Dark Souls. Suddenly, many arms surround this being. You fade back out. A cloak-covered knight, clad in a gold helmet with vibrant red locks. She locks in a golden arm equipped with a katana. She runs. A massive knight with an equally massive curved sword is kneeling. The flowing red hair climbs the beast and is impaled near the horned helm of the knight. She transforms into a massive red lotus bomb. Fade back out. A white-haired blue witch tells you to take the crown when suddenly, in fades, Hidetaka Miyazaki, You've gone rabid. This is the director of the studio that made your favorite game of all time, Kingsfield. Then fades in George R.R. Martin. Who'd have thought he'd make a video game instead of finish his goddamn book? Elden Ring was released February 25th, 2022, to basically every game journalist giving it a 10 out of 10, even though it didn't even have an easy mode. That's the intro.
Woo!
For those listening, the claps don't pick up on AJ's mic.
Oh, yeah.
But he was
You're supposed to.
jazz hands.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So I didn't play Elden Ring until 2024. So it took me 2 years in February it was October of 2023. I played Elden Ring for the first time.
How was that?
It was awesome. So the thing about it is, because every day I'd play it before I went to work, and at first I played it with you, and you were like helping me make my build.
Yeah.
And I think that the moment where I realized that this is the best game ever is when I realized that I didn't have to listen to what you had to say anymore.
No.
And,
Absolutely
and not even like a rude way. It was like that's just how he wanted to play. I can play this game however I want. This is the best game ever. And
what's really cool about Elden Ring is there's no weapon that's off limits. You can beat the game with anything. Even on your first playthrough. If you just like the way a weapon feels, you can use that for the whole game.
I think it's also cool. This is kind of later on, but it's like in the canon of the game, like in the lore of the game, they have a reason for that exact thing. The dragon smithing stones they make. They're saying any weapon you want to use is capable of killing the final boss. Yeah. And I think that was like, peak. But
is that
anyway,
through the blacksmith? Through
he says that
is that his name?
Yeah. Wait,
Where
Hugh?
he wants
H-E-W-G. Hugh?
His whole life's purpose is to make a weapon that can
kill a god.
Kill a god.
But all he needs is an ancient dragon smith and stone, or it's right. Yeah, and he's like, well, anyway. But
actually, on that, I just started another character the other day. Do you know that first bonfire at the church, right past the Sentinel Knight? Did you know you can use that as a blacksmith?
Yeah, I didn't really use it ever.
I didn't know that was an option. I mean, I always just went to the round table, but it's kind of cool that you can just do it right there.
I had no idea. I had no idea. Really, I used it one time because I thought I had to go pick up something there. Forgot what it was. When you buy the crafting kit from the merchant.
Yeah.
I went back to the thing and it said interact on it, and I was like, what the hell?
That's literally what I just did.
But then I was playing the game and you were at work, and the way it worked is that you worked before I did, so you'd go to work and then I'd meet you at work and be like, this is who I just beat, and then you go home, and it was like, for the first week I played, I'd go in but I didn't beat him yet.
Yeah.
I didn't beat him yet. He's too hard. And then I got my hands on the Bloodhound Fang. You said there's no easy mode in this game. There's an easy mode. There's the Bloodhound Fang.
What dropped that?
It's the it's the Bloodhound warrior or something like that in the the jail south.
Oh, I know where that is.
West of Limgrave. And every build I've done, I've beat the game 5 more times since this my first time playing it. Every build I do, the first thing I do is go get that sword, because I'm like, I don't really feel like struggling against Margit right now, so we're gonna go lock in.
That is part of Blythe's storyline.
Yeah,
Everjail.
Yeah, and it's the best quality weapon in the game. In my mind, I think, by my personal opinion, best quality weapon in the game.
Yeah.
But anyway, after my second build I did, though. Not my first build, beat the game. Super underleveled, by the way. I switched to a strength build halfway through my first playthrough because I got the iron spiky balls that are in Lindell.
Yeah.
and I realized that they proc a, what's it called, a stun, like a stature break, stun break
Yeah.
in 2 hits on most bosses. If you do
Yeah.
heavy attacks, and
I
their heavy
remember you
attacks
were
are
running
fast.
around with no shirt on,
You're punching people,
motherfuckers.
punch people. I beat the game at level 70 the first time,
That is
and
super underleveled.
I was 76, something like that, and I had no idea that was not that was like really underleveled. But also,
Yeah.
I didn't do any side things.
Yeah, you
So
like
then-
mainline straight
Yeah.
story bosses.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I was like, yeah, this is a great game. And then I replayed it. And then I replayed it because the DLC was coming out and I wanted to like actually play the game.
Yeah.
I got to level 250
Yeah.
before I played the DLC. I had 200 and something hours on one character. I was on New Game 3, I think. And I was trying to collect
Yeah.
all the weapons before.
That is crazy. New
And
Game
it was
3.
like a whole new game. Because
Yeah.
the first time I did it, I was like, I'm going to go actually play the game right. Get everyone I got. And then I killed all the bosses, like the hard bosses, which we'll talk about a little later. And like for the first time in that playthrough on New Game 2. So I didn't fight them the first 2 times I played the game because I was like, I want to do everything else
Yeah.
and then get the other stuff I missed.
What do you
and
think was
so-
your favorite boss?
My favorite boss in the entire game is probably Malekith. I
Yeah,
hated
Malekith
Malekith.
is sweet. I told you. I remember you were stuck on him for a minute, and I was like, dude,
Yeah.
this fight is awesome.
It was so cool, and
It's very
I think
cinematic.
when you you learn the moves, like if you actually remember his thing, it's super satisfying.
It is satisfying. It's such a good way to put it.
But Millennia, no, she's never satisfying.
No.
Even
Does
after
not
you
feel
win,
good.
I still feel like I cheated.
Yeah.
I'm like, I didn't dodge waterfowl once. I just had enough health
Just tanked it.
to tank that, right? And then I just
Throw
go,
the
"Ah!"
juice back. Yeah.
and then I ran away, and then I was like right back to the fight.
Yeah.
All I do is stature break because she has no poise.
Yeah.
You got no poise.
She's
You only got one
naked.
leg and one arm. Stand on
She-
something.
Like, yeah. She has like a terminal disease.
Fuck you. Terminal disease my ass. She was
Yeah.
spry.
She was pretty spry.
Yeah, but that is probably like most of my real relationship with the game. I
Yeah.
played the heck out of it, the absolute heck out of it.
Yeah.
And then when the DLC came out, I beat the DLC 3 times, and I was like, "This is amazing."
Do you hear this wind? It is crazy.
It's a little bit in the background.
I try to turn my sensitivity down on
Yeah.
my mic a little bit, but
That is my history, my lore about my Elden Ring lore. Is
so my lovely, wonderful, handsome, beautiful brother got me a PS5 the Christmas before. Was that 2022 that it came out? So
it
2021.
was 2021.
You got me the PS5 for Crimbo, and I cried. I cried for a few days. So I was so happy. And the first game I got was Demon Souls, which I have to revisit, I think. I just didn't really enjoy it as much, but it is one of the best looking PS5 games for sure. So I was playing Demon Souls kind of on and off until Elden Ring came out. And I got Elden Ring, I think I got it like the day it came out or the day after. And playing Elden Ring with no guide and nobody had anything online, you couldn't look anything up, was so much fun and so much easier to explore in a way.
Mhm.
Like, I feel like that would be the way you would play like Zelda back in the day. It was just so much more fun to kind of like talk to my friends online and see like what they were finding and stuff. And I remember I was trying to find the what's it called, the serpent katana from the Volcano Manor, but like to get to Volcano Manor was so
Hard.
confusing. Yeah, with no knowledge at all. I remember I got to the Red Wolf of Radigan, in Carrion and Hogwarts at the School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, the Lakes of Lernia. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I got there, and that's when I started like branching off and doing way more side stuff at that point in the game. I beat Elden Ring. It probably took me, I don't even think I beat it until like April. And I started playing it when it came out in February of that year. I was really having fun exploring, which was awesome. And I think my favorite boss was probably Placidusax.
Yeah, that's fair.
That was pretty sweet. And like the way that was found was pretty cool, because I remember like you have to go to that site of grace like halfway through Farum Azula. You have to climb down all the rocks and go lay down in the coffin. I have no idea how anybody found that, but I remember my friend I was playing RuneScape with at the time. I literally had RuneScape on my like second monitor, and I was just like AFKing hard as fuck on there while I was playing Elden Ring. But yeah, he told me about that. That's definitely my favorite boss in Elden Ring, I think.
I have a question about it. So there's this whole thing online about pre-patch, pre-nerf Radahn.
Radahn, yeah.
And how hard he was.
Yeah.
Is it accurate, the things they say about pre-nerf Radahn?
It was harder than Consort Radahn.
Are you using
way harder? Way harder.
It.
Even with the 15 summons, the 15 NPC summons, he had like 1 billion health.
Okay. I just don't believe it.
You had 1 health. No, it was definitely way harder than Consort Radahn. And that was like, I don't know, day 2 of playing Elden Ring, no knowledge on anything.
Yeah, I guess he is the third boss you fight.
Yeah.
Actually, I think third you fight Margit, Godric, and then either Radahn or Onala.
Yeah, they like, all of the NPCs in the game are kind of pushing you towards the festival.
Yeah, they want you to go to the... It's like, you can go, you don't have to even fight Radahn. That's the best part about the game. You don't have to fight Radahn.
Yeah, but
the entire time,
you think you do.
The entire time, they're like, dude... Go fight Radahn, bro. He's
Radahn,
cool. You're gonna love it.
Everything you've done so far is easy. You're having fun.
Don't even have to. Don't even think about it.
Yeah.
Oh, what do you want? What do you want? The larval tier system? Fuck that.
Fuck
Go
that,
fight
man.
Radahn.
That's for babies.
That's for babies. You're never gonna respec. You'll never have to.
Just
you know exactly who you're gonna be right
like
now.
Always. You already know what you're doing.
Come on, man.
It.
I see what you have in your inventory. I know you have 20 strength and you can't hold the sword. But I know what you're doing.
It's funny you bring that up, because I kind of like forgot about it. That's hard. And like Melania didn't even exist for the first month, because the way you get to her, you have to get the amulets and go through the Halig tree and do all that shit. She was like in the game, air quotes for those listening, but like she was impossible.
No one played it.
There's no way to figure that out.
In the way to get the Halig tree, it took me 2 weeks to figure that out with the wiki. I was still confused. I was trying not to use it. I just knew where to go, and I was like, all right, gotta go light all those freaking torches.
Yeah.
In like the astral plane. In the astral plane. You feel me? See it there? Speaking of which, welcome to Astro F. Welcome to Astro FM.
Are we just now doing the intro?
Yeah.
So this is Astro FM. This is the podcast where my brother and I show each other cool shit that we find or enjoy.
Absolutely. Today we're talking about Elden Ring.
Today we're talking about Elden Ring.
We're actually talking about Mario Odyssey today.
Mario.
Super America Brothers 2.
Yeah, Super America Brothers 2.
Which is actually the alternative name to Shadow of the Erd Tree, if you didn't know.
AKA Shadow of the Nerd Tree.
Nerd Tree. But, real quick, I want to talk about Miyazaki's background.
Yeah.
Nothing crazy. I feel like he's been talked about to death because he's one of the greatest, like, storytellers of all time. Everyone knows exactly who he is. But he wasn't born to a rich family. You know, wasn't born to it. It wasn't like he was dying. You know, like his family was over, but he wasn't born to a successfully rich family. He wasn't always making games. He always wanted to, but wasn't. He was working for like a corporation to put his sister through school. And when she graduated, he was like, I want to make games. So he quit his job, which is kind of crazy to do in Japan at the time. And he goes and finds FromSoft. It's kind of like just surprising. Everything he does is kind of like, oh yeah, I guess so. Sure, why not? And this is also very butchered, not entirely accurate, but it's also just kind of what happens. He goes to FromSoft, and they're like, hey, yeah, you can work on this horrible game. And he's like,
Yeah.
well, if I can make it fun, is it like, what do I do? Can we release it? And they're like, yeah, sure, if you can make it fun. And that was Demon Souls.
Yep.
And it was pretty good. It kind of didn't sell well, but people liked it. People who played it kind of became like a cult classic kind of thing. And then they were like, you know what? We want another one of these, but actually better,
Playable,
and more fun.
yeah.
And then he was like, okay. And that was Dark Souls. And after Dark Souls, they're like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Oh my god, you're the greatest person ever. You're the best video game guy that's ever existed ever.
Yeah.
No one could. And so then he became the president of the company, basically. It was kind of like that. It was like that crazy for him. He was just like, I'm the president now. I'm going to go make Bloodborne.
Yeah.
And then he left, go make Bloodborne. And they were like, we're going to make a second game without you.
Yeah.
He's like,
And it was
what?
dog shit. But
And he
it's
comes
okay.
back.
Dark
He
Souls
comes
2
back
is
and looks at the
pretty
game. He's like, what the hell?
good.
No,
Yeah.
he didn't like that game. No one apparently does. But Bloodborne was freaking amazing.
Bloodborne is my favorite game of all time. But
Yeah.
Dark Souls 2 is pretty dog shit. But the DLC is really good at Dark Souls 2.
Yeah.
And that's because
Um,
Miyazaki came back.
It was Miyazaki and then his co-director, which I can't remember his name right now.
Yeah.
Forgot to write his name down. His whole lore. But the co-director directed most. He kind of brought. So basically, the production of Dark Souls 2 was horrible. Just horrible.
Yeah.
And then the guy who helped the DLC and helped co-direct Sekiro, I can't remember his name. He came back to Dark Souls 2 and was like, "You guys are fucking this up. We gotta fix this." So Dark Souls 2 is kind of like Demon Souls, ironically. And then Dark Souls 3, Miyazaki's like, "You guys aren't touching this ever again, okay?
Yeah.
Let me lock in.
Dark
I'll
Souls
take care of
3
this."
is the true Dark Souls 2.
And then Dark Souls 3 comes out, and it's everyone's favorite. I think that's not Bloodborne. I think it's the everyone's favorite Dark Souls game, if I'm not mistaken. Like it's the most
Dark
popular, the
Souls
one
3?
that people like the most of the Dark Souls, or
Or
Dark Souls 1 more. But I feel like every time I hear people talk about Dark Souls, like
feelings. I feel like they're
a lot of people like that one because of how it plays, not because
No,
of
I
like the
feel
like
like-
gameplay wise.
I think Dark Souls 3 is fucking great. I think it's really good, but it's hard to say between Dark Souls 3 and 1 which one I prefer.
But it's a really beloved game, really beloved game, and the DLCs for Dark Souls 3 were insane. Everyone loved those, and like was said earlier, they were waiting on this whole thing to get Elden Ring out, but no one knew Elden Ring was coming out. Sekiro just came out, and you're like, well, that was weird. That's not Dark Souls.
That's not
I don't even get to
Dark
choose how I
Souls.
fight in that game.
That game is
And then you're
hard
waiting,
in a different
and then
way.
the intro of this podcast happens, and everyone was like, "Ah!"
Let's fucking go! It's Dark Souls,
And-
but big.
Big Dark Souls
Big Dark
Big
Souls
Dark
on a
Souls.
horse.
on a horse.
So I have some notes on, if you're
Yeah.
hooked up on that bit, I have some notes on George R. Martin's contributions. So he actually wrote the game. He wrote the events that took place 5,000 years before Elden Ring, and he wrote the family tree between America. So basically, I have a quote from Miyazaki that kind of like makes sense. So From didn't want George R. R. Martin to write the game story or in-game text because we at From felt like that would actually limit his creative output. And if it was limited to something that was already a game or already a concept in this way, then it would limit the inspirations we could possibly get from him. So we established very early that he would be writing the foundation the historical element to the game, something that took place long before the events of the game itself. In this way, he was able to much more freely flex those creative muscles and provide something that wasn't restricted. And we started off by giving him these very vague and broad themes and ideas for the mythos that I had swimming around in my own head, along with what kind of games we typically make, and the sort of themes that we'd like to explore in our games. So it was all very loose and quite vague. Then he would come back to us with a lot of ideas. How about this, this, and this? That back and forth started the exchange of ideas. This quote is super long, but it does summarize a lot. I feel like basically George R.R. Martin wrote everything that happens up until the intro cinematic to the game, which is the Shattering, where hang on, let me check on Baby Cat real quick. Give me 1 second.
Baby cat break.
Sorry about that. Baby Cat was really trying to get in the bathroom. I didn't know the door was closed. So yeah, when Martin wrote these characters and when he provided that origin story, that mythos for the world of Elden Ring, these demigods were much closer to their original form and maybe closer to human form back then before the Shattering, before it all started. So it was more up to us to interpret this and say, how did they become such inhuman monsters? And how did the mad taint of the shattered shards of the Elden Ring and its power affect them? So that was our job, to take these grand heroes and sort of misshape them and distort them into something they were not. And I think if we get a chance to show Martin and he gets a chance to see the game in these characters, I think he might be a bit shocked. When he wrote them, he was really envisioning something a little bit more human, a little bit more traditional human drama and fantasy characters, so I hope he gets a kick out of that. I got these quotes from Raditasker on YouTube, who has a video that goes really deep into George R.R. Martin's contributions.
And my favorite part about the George R.R. Martin's contribution is that he was just like, he got all the lore done and just handed them basically like a giant book, and it was like, here you go, I wrote you guys a book. And they were like,
essentially, yeah, he's like,
yeah, let's go.
And
I think the coolest part about the lore too is that Miyazaki took all this information from this book and just wrote everything off of it. Like all the item descriptions in the game are lore. So like he turned a novel into a description of an item which explains so much every single time. Every item you pick up in the game's like, did you freaking know that Marika and Ratigan is the same person? And you're like,
yeah,
dude, what the hell? And it's like, yeah, this is the braid of the. It's a single braid of the fire giant. It's like, yeah, the reason the fire giants are all dead is because Marika killed them all. And you're like, what? Every single time.
Broken straight sword.
This is a broken straight sword. You pick up the broken straight sword. It's like, hey guys, guess what? You will not believe the entire DLC is in this just one section here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was talking about the soundtrack. I was gonna start talking about the soundtrack of Elden Ring. Just to go over it. Saito. Oh no. So Tsukasa Saito, one of the lead composers of Elden Ring. He actually composed the song Elden Ring.
That's the name of it?
Yeah, it's the main theme. It's called Elden Ring. It plays at the opening, obviously, and also during the final fight. Um, Said that was his favorite song on the entire project to make and to listen to. And again, I was talking about the Song of Honor, played in Redmane's Castle. Um, right before right before the Radon Festival. So before you even fight in the festival, you hear the song of all these mercenaries singing. Kind of like I guess it's like to celebrate Radon in a way, but it was cool again to see him not use this actual vocal choir, but instead get the brass section of his orchestra to sing the song to represent the mercenaries and the soldiers that be actually singing the song in the game for lore reasons. But the main track, Elden Ring, is truly exceptional, truly special. I think you can imagine exactly how it starts without even hearing it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And when I heard it, but when I listened to it, because I listened to the soundtrack again before like doing this episode, and it does feel like the PS2 starting music.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh my god, I'm about to be in for the greatest experience of my life.
Yeah.
This is it. And I think if we're able to, in post, add that song just for a second, just the beginning of it, just so you can hear how it starts. Because it's really cool. It's actually like my favorite soundtracks, probably any game I've ever played is from Elden Ring, just because of how.
Baby Cat, pull that up.
Yeah, Baby Cat, pull up the Elden Ring. Yeah, and just because how it just pushes you, like it just keeps you going forward, keeps you wanting to like explore the world. There's in every location's sound score sounds perfect for where you are. Like I don't ever sit there and I'm like, man, I don't know about this music here. And even beyond that, like the bats who are singing opera music throughout the game and you don't know where they're coming from. And I imagine like the first time you hear that without the wiki, you don't know anything about it. You're just hearing like some scary devil thing.
Yeah.
Speaking in Latin, singing in Latin near you, and you don't even know what Latin is because you're not Latin. You're like, what the hell? What the hell is that? And the bats are singing the lore of the game to you in Latin, which is it's just a super cool.
Do you have the lyrics?
Super cool. I'll look up the lyrics real quick. Jay, baby cat, can you pull up the lyrics to
the bat song lyrics of the lore of Elden Ring?
Yeah, let me look this up really quick. This is called the Song of Lament. Where the heck is it? Where is it? What the hell? Oh my god. It says, O land, formerly blessed, now withered, we had been destined for motherhood, but now have become disfigured. We wailed and wept, but no one comforts us, golden one, at whom were you so angry?
Yeah.
And, with the lore of the game in mind, which we'll talk about in a little bit, it is genuinely incredible to just throw that in. Like, it tells you the entire story in a few lines.
Is that Godric? Is that what it's about? The golden one? Or is that America?
It's about, well, I mean, it could be about, honestly, any of her children.
Yeah.
If you think about it. We had been destined for motherhood, makes me think it's America.
Oh, right, yeah.
But even then, like, if you think of Godric as a character, like, he's wants to rebuild the Elden Ring himself.
Yeah.
Wants to become a god. All of the demigods want to become the god of the world in some way.
Yeah.
So even they could just be a metaphor of motherhood, using motherhood as a metaphor of godhood. Could work for any of the children. But genuinely, it's just really cool that was a piece. They were like, yeah, let's just have these bats that are honestly fodder in the grand scheme.
Yeah.
Like, you can kill them in one hit at a certain point. They're gonna just give you an insane amount of lore.
Yeah.
Which again, Miyazaki, environmental storytelling, item descriptions, everything he did for the lore and the story, the whole thing is incredible, and making these bats just part of the game randomly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a pretty chunky piece that I pre-wrote, essentially a speech, that's the main game lore. And the lore is so
Crazy.
all
It's
over
so
the
crazy.
place that I felt like I had to kind of record my thoughts completely. So I'm just going to read it. Feel free to interrupt me if you have any questions or anything. So, Elden Ring takes place in the lands between. This land is ruled by Queen Marika. Queen Marika gets her power from the Elden Ring, which the Elden Ring is basically a star that holds concepts like life and death, chaos and space, and the greater will, which is basically the embodiment of order. The greater will is represented by the last boss in the game, the Elden Beast. Marika's title is the Elden Lord, which is what you, the player, want to be. In order to be an Elden Lord, you have to have a consort, which is more like a spouse, and Marika's spouse is Godfrey. Marika and Godfrey had 4 sons, Godwyn, Morgott, Mohg, and Godric, all 4 of which are demigods. Morgott and Mohg were born as omens, which are cursed beings covered in twisted horns and essentially are banished, but kind of in like a nice way where they're still demigods, but they're still not allowed like
I don't even know if it's nice. They
in
put them in the
public.
sewer.
It's not. Yeah, it's not
They say,
nice.
Go to the poop tunnel, you idiots.
But they still have like
They're superior to like the human
Yeah.
people, but
yeah,
they are in the poop drains.
they're in the poop. What is it? The poop smith
The
house.
poop smiths.
From
Yeah,
Star Runner?
poop smiths
Whatever.
catacombs.
Yeah, poop smiths catacombs. So Marika took the rune of death from the Elden Ring and gave it to Malekith in order to keep death from her land, allowing everyone in the lands between to be, everyone with grace to be immortal, which basically explains the respawn mechanics in the game, and all of the FromSoft games have like a lore reason why you come back.
Mother, yeah.
So during the time of Marika's rule, war was taking place between the Golden Order and Radagon. Radagon married Queen Rennala and brought peace for the time being. Radagon and Rennala had 3 children, Radahn, Rykard, and Ranni. After the war, Godfrey felt his purpose was finished and left the lands between. Marika needed a consort in order to remain an Elden Lord, so she got with Radagon, who, as you remember, was married to Rennala. Radagon left Rennala to meet Marika at the Erdtree, which houses the Elden Ring. Radagon and Marika had 2 more kids together, Miquella and Melania. Miquella and Melania are Empyrean, which is sort of like a demigod, except instead of a demigod is like a person and a god, an Empyrean is 2 gods. And how is Radagon a god, you may ask? Feel free to ask that.
How is Radagon also a god?
I'm glad you asked that. Well, Marika and Radagon are actually the same person, and I don't really know how that works. But it does.
There's so much of that happening
Yeah.
in the DLC. We'll talk about that lore more and how insane it changes the main story's DLC,
Yeah.
but lore.
Okay.
Ranni also is an Empyrean, and so was Godwyn. Those 2 were also technically gods.
Okay.
That's another part of the thing that's crazy. But yeah. Keep going.
That is pretty much actually all George R. R. Martin contributed up to that point. He established the rules of the land, the family tree, who was related to who, why, But he kind of left them more like human, where in Elden Ring they explore more what happens after the Shattering, which the Shattering is the night that Ranni came up with the plan to steal the Rune of Death from Malekith and create these black daggers that can cause true death and bypass the immortality that Marika made possible. So Ranni gave these daggers to the Black Knife Assassins, who would go on to kill Godwyn, the first demigod, whose body bore only half of the curse mark of death, on what would be known as the Night of the Black Knives. Randy then used the knife on herself to strip away her Empyrean flesh. Randy's body, I said Empyrean flesh, alright?
Yeah.
Yada yada. So Randy's body had the other half of the curse mark of death. When she died, however, her soul lived on, using dolls to still operate in the lands between. Godwin's soul died, but his body never stopped growing, and you can actually find his body growing all throughout the lands between, which is a way more horrifying concept.
Yeah, it's
than
so
it
gross.
Sounds like you really got to check it out.
And his face grows everywhere. It's not just his body. His face will
Yeah.
grow in random
So,
places.
I would really recommend checking out Zuli the Witch, who helped with a lot of like what I'm talking about visually. They use the free cam mods and other ways to see things in the game
Mm-hmm.
and get more lore out of things than we can actually find in the game by kind of breaking the game a bit, you know. So after news of Godwin's death reached America, she shattered the Elden Ring, and the shards were scattered all throughout the lands between. The remaining demigods and Empyreans became these twisted monster versions of themselves, trying to scrape together these shards of the Elden Ring so they could become the new Elden Lord. And these children of Marek and Radagon never brought all of the shards together and sort of came to a draw in that each of them got a great rune, but the Elden Ring is made up of all of the great runes put together. So this is where you come in, Foul Tarnished. Tarnished are basically the regular people in the lands between, sort of. It's kind of confusing.
Yeah. It's
because
like-
the Tarnished are like blessed with a piece of the shard, but they're not
Yeah.
really.
So the Tarnished are connected to Godfrey, the first Elden Lord.
Yeah.
He's not the first one, but he's the first one
Yeah.
towards Merrick for America, and
Yeah.
because they're related to him, they have grace.
Yeah.
The other people don't though. Some people don't because they're not even tarnished. But yeah.
So when the Elden Ring was shattered, shards were spread all throughout the lands between, giving some of these tarnished blessings of the Erd Tree, which is the little gold speck that your hand reaches toward in the intro of the game. And you are tasked with gathering the greater runes and restoring the Elden Ring and becoming the new Elden Lord, which doesn't mean the ruler. The Round Table Hold is looking to make someone worthy of being Marika's new consort by bringing the Elden Ring together and presenting it to her, which is why you have the support of the Two Fingers, which the Two Fingers is a whole thing. It's basically a phone line that connects to the outer gods that the finger reader crones can decipher what it means, but it's kind of like getting messages from God and just have people on the street saying, yes, this is what God wants you to do.
This is it. And
This is what
also
they're
America is
they're just
also
going-
interpreting the Two Fingers as well. America also speaks the Two Fingers for her guidance from the Elden. The greater will is also.
So when you do reach the Erd Tree, it's covered in thorns because America's pretty over it. It doesn't want to restore things to how they were
Fuck this.
before. This is also 5,000 years after the Shattering. This is when the game takes place. And that's quote-unquote confirmed by George R.R. Martin.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he said his book ends. It's 5,000 years before the Shattering. So during your adventure, you find Melina, who is somehow related to Marika, which AJ will fill that in later, I'm sure.
The who? Oh, yeah.
Melina, related to Marika. She offers you an accord, which is a horse goat that you
Yes.
summon with the ring
Horse
whistle.
goat named Torrent, and he's my best friend.
He's
and I
the
thought he
best.
was gonna die, and I would have cried.
Yeah. Realizing you can't get into the Erd Tree, being covered in thorns and all, Melina tells you to do what any other sane person would do and light the Erd Tree on fire, so you can get in there and bring the Elden Ring together. So you go to the mountaintop of the giants and use those embers to light the Erd Tree on fire. This is known as the first cardinal sin, which betrays the fingers. I have a little section about the fingers here, but I already kind of went over that. In order to use the flame, a sacrifice is required, and Melina offers herself. After this happens, you wake up in Farum Azula, which is a dragon temple in the sky. I hope you're keeping up. I'm pretty sure this temple is to Placidusax, who was the first ruler.
Yeah. It's like it's cool. It's cool. The lore on the temple is actually insane.
Yeah, but he's a massive 5-headed dragon. He was the ruler before the Erd Tree even existed, and I have a note here that says I don't even know how to cover that right now.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So anyway, you go through Farum Azula to find the Beast Clergyman, who you may have met during your time in Caelid while you were gathering Great Runes. It's revealed this is actually Malekith, and he doesn't want you to take the Great Rune of Death again, but, you know, you gotta. And this is probably...
You have to.
This is what I wrote. It's probably, if not my favorite, top 3 favorite boss fights in the game.
Yeah.
I'd say...
Yeah.
Him
I think
and
that
Placidusax are pretty close.
Yeah, I think it's cool too because the lore accurate version of that fight is you don't get hit one time.
That is pretty impossible.
Yeah, but it doesn't happen.
Yeah, I'll never get that. But after acquiring the Rune of Death, you can return to the Erd Tree, and on your way, which that was the whole reason you went to Farum Azula, was to get that Great Rune of Death.
Mm-hmm.
But on your way, you run into Gideon, who was your guide on where to go in this massive game, and he wants to stop you from becoming the Elden Lord so he can himself. After defeating him, you fight Godfrey, who reveals himself to be Horalu, the first Tarnished. After feeling his purpose was complete and he exiled himself, he lost his grace with the Erd Tree and became Horalu of the Badlands. He was the leader of the Tarnished and their own civilization in a land far removed from the lands between. After defeating Godfrey, you can now enter the Erd Tree, and you see Marika crucified to a massive shard of the Elden Ring. She falls and reveals herself to be Radagon, and fights you to prevent you from becoming Elden Lord, since Radagon considers himself to be, and nobody knows that the two of them are the same person. So after defeating Radagon, a hand reaches from a dark pool in the floor and grabs Radagon's body and changes him into a massive greatsword. This hand belongs to the Elden Beast, the living embodiment of order and the outer god of greater will. The outer god doesn't want you to become the ruler / Elden Lord, so it decides to stop you in one of the coolest looking boss fights in all of the Souls games.
It's freaking beautiful.
So that's where I kind of stopped on my
that great sword.
I have a theory on what I think the true ending of the game is, and I'll get to that in a bit.
But the great sword, that great sword right there that is used, that's the freaking best rune farm in the game.
Is it?
You want to get some runes? Go get that cleric. I think it's the cleric great sword or cleric straight sword, whatever it is. The Marika sword. Best rune farm in the freaking game. Go down to Mogwin Castle.
War that does it?
Yeah. It's a giant AoE that does it. One shots all the what are they called? Freaking Albinorics. Yeah, it's better than the Blasphemous Blade for that. Not an important thing, but if you
literally beat the game already.
Yeah, it's good for the DLC though. It's good. It was really nice for when I was trying to level up for the DLC to when I ran out of larval tears because I couldn't beat somebody and I had to respec again for the 17th time, but I couldn't respec, so I was like, I'm just gonna level everything up, and then I don't have to respec. I don't have to respec then.
I do wish they gave you when you respec. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I wish there was a way when you respec, you could also respec your weapons. You can, but there's only 5 of the highest
stones.
Yeah. I always want to call them Titanite shards, but they're not. It's a different game.
But yeah, some of the other parts of the lore, Rykard is my favorite demigod. Yeah. He's just the most real.
And I just kind of there's so much more lore than that. That's just
and the best part about it is that whole story is completely changed by the DLC.
Yeah.
The DLC is everything all that you just did. Yeah. Guess what? It's so crazy. It's so much crazier now.
Do you
Um,
have the DLC lore?
yeah, I could go over it real quick. I was gonna say a couple more things about the main story. Um, so yeah, the omens, they're underground. I'm just gonna talk about this so I can set up the main story of the DLC.
Yeah.
We didn't really speak too much on Radon and Melania
I didn't
and
go into
Moog.
That was more America lore. I think I covered. It.
Yeah, but
And
those
tarnished.
characters are the ones that are important for the DLC. So the
Baby Cat
three
is in the pantry now. This guy is nuts. Our producer needs to chill out.
he's going crazy on him, bro.
Man, this guy's freaking nuts. I don't know how he locked himself in the pantry. And then I had to pee so bad I realized when I got up. But my bad.
Yeah.
Where were we at?
So the some of the extra lore in the main story, the reason that America removes the death rune from the Elden Ring is because the Blue-Eyed Queen makes the Godskin apostles who are killing gods.
Yeah.
And she's like, what the hell? No. So she's like, y'all can't die anymore, and she gives the rune of death to Malekith. After removing it from the Elden Ring. And the shattering comes, basically, Godwyn dies, and that's just, Ronnie killing Godwyn is like the entire reason everything goes really bad. Like, it's already pretty bad before that. Ronnie's like, I don't want to be no freaking god. Thank you for my dog friend, though. He's freaking sweet. But I don't want to be no freaking god. And I think the Shadows, like a Blythe story, even though it's not technically a main story in the game, I think is my favorite part of the entire story. I think that his character is perfect in every single way, and genuinely one of the best parts of the game is doing Ronnie's questline when it comes to just the storytelling aspects of it. I'm not going to tell you anything that happens, don't want to spoil it if you haven't played the game, but if you want my personal favorite story in the game, follow Ronnie's questline, and you will cry like 10 times.
You can do her questline without finishing his story, so make sure you do his story also.
Yeah, and it's devastating. It's absolutely devastating. And yeah, it's genuinely great. I think another really cool storyline is Fea's storyline. Another really great one to look into, like in terms of the storytelling and just like the whole idea of grief is dealt through that one.
Fia, Fia.
Yeah, Fia. Yeah. And but to set up the DLC's main story, to get to the DLC, you have to fight Moog and also Radon.
Moog the Blood Lord.
Moog the Blood Lord. And so the thing that's crazy about the DLC,
I love his name so much.
It's
so funny.
We assumed Mikola was going to be a big part of the DLC. People thought it was going to be Godwyn, and to those people, I'm sorry. Well, how would it be Godwyn? We knew he was dead for so long.
Yeah.
The whole game is based on him not coming back.
Yeah.
It would be, horrible for that. So we assumed it was Mikola because he was one of the only gods that's mentioned throughout the story that we don't know.
Yeah.
So it being Mikola would make sense, and it being Mikola that you have to go to Moog and kill first to get to the DLC makes sense because Mikola's body is being held captive by Moog the entire time. Yeah. And you have to fight Radon for reasons I'll explain in a little bit, but you do have to kill Radon. And another important person from the main story is going to be Melania, who we kind of didn't talk about too much because she's not really in the story at all. Unless you go and find her on the top of the map by doing really convoluted things.
Yeah.
It's super convoluted to get there. And what are you welcomed by but the hardest boss in the base game who you don't know how to do anything to until attempt number 50 when you're like, oh, I can dodge this attack.
Yeah, and
the way to dodge it
half
is
of the medallion, you have to go through Shadow Hell.
Yeah.
And light all those torches. And that took me like 2 hours the first time.
Yeah, and then you have to go up
by invisible bastards.
Yeah, one of the medallions, one of the half of the medallions is up on the. It's in the northern castle. After
Oh,
that
Commander
one
Nile,
guy,
is it?
Commander Guile, who is not a hard boss, but is one of the bosses in the game that if you want to use no ashes and run, it just pisses you off because all he does
Yeah.
is summon these idiot knights who spam attack you, and then
Yeah.
they're easy to
You
kill,
just-
but by the time you kill them, your
You just
health is
gotta,
like a little bit hit.
kite the aggro the whole
Yeah.
fucking time and do like
And then
minimal damage and then die in one hit and then do like
yeah,
really not that long run. But in Elden Ring, they spoil you with Stakes of America and Sights of Grace.
yeah.
But it's still pretty long.
Then anyway, so after you fight Moog, you go up to the cocoon of Mikola, which was taken from the Halig tree where Melania is, and basically the reason like it was taken, I never understood how it happened, but apparently Moog snuck into the Halig tree, just took the cocoon out of the tree and ran away.
And it's huge.
And so it's huge. And so for like 3 years, we were like, how did he do that? Like, how can you just sneak past Melania while she's sleeping and grab this cocoon and leave? And nothing happened. Which sets up the DLC. So you go and you touch the cocoon and you go into the Land of Shadow. The Land of Shadow is the land that we assume is like the land of death for the Land Between. And you find out that Mikola is trying to become a god in the Land of Shadow. The way he's doing this is by giving up parts of himself. He gives up his legs, his arms, his love, yada yada yada. And another really big lore revelation was we assumed that Mikola and Saint Trina were the same person. Saint Trina is the god of sleep. Very, very, like, not talked about enough in the main story either. But again, Saint Trina is the same person as Mikola, and when he gives up his love, he gives up Saint Trina. And he's trying to ascend to godhood by giving up himself. Another thing that was a big question for me is how is Mikola in the Land of Shadow, while if his body's in the Lands Between? The Land of Shadow kind of represents like this whole, like, you are dead there kind of thing. Like it's, your body isn't physically there, but it also is. It's really confusing, but yeah. And then it's all very confusing, but it makes sense when you think about it for like 2 more seconds.
This is just our understanding also. I really recommend checking out.
You just play the game.
Zafe the Scholar is awesome. He's a pretty I would say he's a smaller channel in compared to like Vadi Vidya or Zuli the Witch. But Zafe is awesome. He has like 40,000 subscribers, which is a lot, but compared to the bigger guys, I like what he does a lot. Yeah.
So, but Mikola wants to become a god of compassion and love. That is his entire ideal system. Is that he was going to rule with a loving care for the world. So his followers are very, very strong and want to really follow this belief that he has. His followers include Lady Freda, Ansbash, Nor, all these people that came from the Lands Between into the Land of Shadow, or were always in the Land of Shadow and followed Mikola because of who he was. It's so we thought. When you get to the Land Between, or Land of Shadow, you can break the Great Rune that Mikola has, and everyone realizes that they were under a spell from Mikola, and he was kind of controlling all of them the entire time.
Yeah.
And they don't like that, but they stay because they're like, well, he's going to be a solid god, I think. If he can do that, that's pretty freaking sweet.
Yeah.
So then you go and fight everybody. All the people you're fighting, you start out, first fight, boom. Right in the DLC, you go fight the fucking beast up top because you're like, I want to go, he's the first guy I found. But the main story beast fighters, there's a hippopotamus when you go into the castle right before Nala, and you're like,
golden hippopotamus.
What the hell is this? And
rhino.
Isn't
it? The rhino horn?
Yeah, and the blood pools there are hilarious.
Keep up, guys, keep up.
The blood pools are where you can see how people died before you. And before you go through a door into that castle, that's where the hippopotamus is. There's always one spot of blood that you can see how someone died. And you turn it on, and it's just this guy getting swung around the room. And you're like, what the hell? And then when you walk in there, I guarantee if you don't dodge that first time you play, that is exactly what happens to you.
Yeah.
So you get someone in the room, yada, fast forward, you beat him, cool. Then you beat, it's Relena or Renala, it's Renala, it's Renala and I think Relena.
It's
They're
Relena.
sisters. Relena is the sister, and she becomes the sword for Mesmer, who we'll get to in just a second.
And I
But
love that fight too.
Yeah,
That's a good boss.
Relena's fight is one of my favorites in the game as well. Really,
That
really
boss
cool.
pissed me off in a good way.
Yeah, it was really, really cool. She has like the if you're familiar with the game, her swords are like the sword of Night and Flame. But it's a dual wield sword. It's really cool. Really, really cool fight. But she's basically protecting Mesmer from attacks from outside. She's the first defense for Mesmer. And Mesmer, who is probably one of the biggest revelations from the lore of the DLC, is Marika's and Radagon's third child.
Is
And
he
that's
third?
crazy. Yeah, well, no, he's the first of the three.
Yeah. That's what I
But
thought.
it's insane. And with that, it's also, we find out that, is it Melina?
Yep.
Is that her name?
Yep.
Melina is also the second child of Radagon and Marika. But we don't know when they were born,
Yeah.
because that all happens before the lands between and the land of shadow separate.
Yep.
So Marika and Radagon might have had children before everything happens in Elden Ring's main story.
Yep.
That is the craziest thing. And because of this, there's a lot of conspiracies that Melina is actually the gloom-eyed queen who made the Godskin apostles and all that other stuff. I'm not doing that right now. It's just too much.
Yeah.
But Mesmer's Mesmer's story is he was basically cursed the same way that Mikola and Melania are. Melania's cursed with the rot, and Mikola's cursed with eternal youth. And Mesmer's cursed with the fire serpent. So he's burning from the inside always, constantly. And to cure this, Marika put Grace into an eyeball and put it in his eye. Because, logic. That's how you're going to stop it, obviously. And I also thought it was interesting. One more piece I realized while making this, it's the same eye that Melina's missing through the entire game.
And Big Snake.
And big snake. Big snake.
That snake is horrifying. It is so scary.
Absolutely.
It's actually a horror game. That boss
it's
fight
very
is very
it was
scary.
and the Mesmer fight is incredible. The saddest part about Mesmer's story is that he was forsaken by Marika, left and abandoned in the land of shadow, but he is eternally grateful for her, always serves her order. One of the part that's like the saddest part of that fight for me is the second phase starts out with him apologizing to his mother, and then taking out his eye, which is curing him from being a snake. And as soon as he takes that eye out, and it's crazy.
Yeah.
AoE attacks out the freaking wazoo. Everything's fast. It's
Yeah.
hard.
Actually,
but
speaking of Zafe, I just before we started recording watched that video I sent to you, and he has a coverage of Mesmer, and that snake. There's actually two snakes. One snake has the big eye missing, and then the other snake is on the inside of its mouth, and all around its body has a bunch of red snake eyes all over it.
I never noticed.
You wouldn't see it because the fight.
so freaking
that fight is so fast. Like it's constant. They don't get a minute to like really absorb what you're looking at. But
And then-
if you can freeze frame, you can see there's so many cool details.
Yeah, and it's just incredible. The environmental storytelling of the game is nuts.
Yeah.
So then after you fight Mesmer, you get the Mesmer's Ember, and you can burn down the thorns again of the Shadow Tree, which I haven't talked about because that is crazy. That's a whole other thing. There's
It's
a
the
giant tree
Scadu tree.
in the DLC, a big old tree, the third big tree in the game,
Yeah.
the Halig tree,
Yep. The Erd
big tree, Erd tree, and then the Shadow Tree. And the Shadow Tree's there, hanging out, chilling.
Yep.
You have to burn it down. While you're going through the castle to get to Mesmer, there's a lot of extra information coming in. You're talking to Ansbash, one of Moog's followers, and Freya, one of Freya, Radahn's followers. They're going back and forth. You have to go up and down this castle 4 times. I'm not kidding, 4 times to talk to both of them to get the actual story of what's going on.
Yeah.
But in this castle, you find out that Mikola, after the rune's broken, so they're not falling under his spell anymore, so they can freely think. You find out that Mikola wants to use Radahn as a consort in the Land of Shadow. And Freya is completely for this because she believes that Radahn would want to fight eternally. He's a person of war. And Ansbach is against it because the way in which Mikola wants to make Radahn a consort is by using the corpse of Mohg to turn him into Radahn.
Yeah.
And that right there changes the entire plot we had for 3 years.
Yeah.
We were calling Mohg the Mohg Lester. We called Mohg horrible things for 3 years. We thought Mohg was the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
He was a horrible guy, abuser, yada yada yada. Whole time Mohg was just tricked. He was fooled. He was followed. He was groomed by the Mohg Lester.
Jesus Christ.
See, and that's the craziest part of the whole DSC right there. And that's not even the craziest part because there's so much more. So yeah, you find that out, and if you don't do that story, that little quest line, the end of the DLC is way funnier. Because if you weren't on TikTok, weren't looking on the wiki, and you just played the DLC through, and you didn't go up and down the stairs 10 times.
Yeah.
And you get to the end, that final boss, you fight what's her name? One of Mikola's followers. Mikola's like most loyal follower. She's like a holy knight. Fight her. You beat her. You go to the doors at the end to the divine gate, and you're like, I'm gonna go fuck Mikola up.
Yep.
I'm gonna go fuck Mikola up so bad.
Yeah.
You kick open that door.
Yeah.
Boom. You're walking in. This is a piece of cake. This ain't shit. This ain't shit. Right? I have to act this part out. Ready? This is what you see. If you did not know that was gonna happen.
Okay. All right. So for this audio formatted podcast, I'm gonna narrate. Oh, he just kicked the door in.
What up, pussy?
He has his arms spread out. He's flipping
and
off.
This is the other perspective. Okay, who are actually gonna fight here?
Okay. Oh, he's got two curved great swords.
Okay.
And now he's sitting back
You see
down.
2 giant curved swords slap the ground. You see him, and the thing about it, even if you knew Radahn was coming back, the assumption that you were going to fight Radahn was the same Radahn you've already beat. You're like, I don't give a fuck. I can beat Radahn. I've already beat him before. He's a piece of shit.
No,
he's
not.
an old
He's
dying
hard.
bastard.
He's so fucking hard.
He's an old dying rotted idiot guy. Who cares about Radahn?
Crazy.
Right? So then you see those 2 great swords, curved swords, slap into the ground, and you get a flashback almost. You're like, where have I seen this before? And then you think of the person that Melania was fighting in the trailer. And you go, oh, that one.
Radahn.
That's who I'm. the one that like
Radahn.
was like going fit hand. Like, just, that one.
Radahn day 1.
And then
Elden Ring.
And then the next thing that happens is this freaking idiot guy turns into a flying tornado and goes across the entire battle arena, which is huge.
It's so big.
Huge.
Yeah.
Across the entire thing, like the damn near speed of light directly into your stomach. And I think there's a second pre-nerf for Don that happened because
There was.
So
they nerfed him again.
This version, the first time you play it. Mind you, this is the 3rd day I've played the DLC. I got there in 3 days, and he flies in, bam.
Over.
I was like, you know what though? It's not that different. I know, bitch. I got this. Boom, bam, boom, bam, bam. Died the first time. Whatever. You know, it was a game. It was gonna happen. They didn't get to second phase. I just died because I wasn't expecting these moves. Yeah. I get to the second phase. Now, this is where it gets crazy. Radahn. Second phase starts at 75% health, not 50. So you get your coach. Oh, this is a piece of cake. I got him now. I'm gonna get him to 50 in no time. No cutscene. What the hell? Radahn's like, man, I'm getting my ass beat. I don't even want to fight no more.
Yeah.
And then here comes this little femboy asshole. He's like, keep fighting, brother. You got it. In his ear.
Jesus.
And then this is where it gets fucked up. He goes, keep fighting, brother. You got it. And then Radon flies into the air, like Christ-like.
Yeah.
Floats 30 feet in the air. And you've never seen this attack yet. Again, you haven't watched anything. You don't know what this is. And then the entire stage turns into a bright light. It's like the picture of Willem Dafoe looking at the bomb.
Yeah.
You die instantly. You're dead. It's over. And then you go, what the hell was that?
Why is it so long?
And you stand up like CJ and GTA and you go, oh shit, here we go again. And then for me, I took 100 and something tries.
Really?
And oh yeah, the first time I beat Radon, it took at least 100 tries. It took me 3 full days to beat him, and I played. Yeah. I think I have 60 hours of fighting just Concert Radon in the DLC. Christ. It took me so long, and I'm not afraid to admit it. It was because I wanted to be stubborn, and I wasn't switching my weapon. I wanted to beat him what I was beating everyone with. But I gave up eventually, and before the patch, there was a little tip of the tray, little trick of the tray. The fragrance bottles in the DLC were the most broken weapon ever in any game. It took 3 hits to kill Radon with those things.
That's fucked.
And I couldn't do it. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna beat it again on New Game Plus.
Yeah.
The real way this time, but I can't.
I just
really let myself down. I did go back and beat. I beat
baby,
the next week. I beat it on New Game Plus though, so I did beat it the real way. And I beat it a 3rd time with the Ansbach summon so I can get the scythe. So I did beat him for real, but the first time I did cheat. And after you beat him, you learn that Mikola asked if he were to keep his promise, would Radon be his consort? And that sets up this whole conversation on if Radon actually agreed to be the consort or not because of Mikola's history as a manipulator.
Yeah.
When the main story starts with that cutscene of Melania and Radon fighting, or I guess the trailer, and you see Melania whisper something in Radon's ear. What she says to Radon is, basically, you'll be with Mikola soon. In the Land of Shadow, basically saying she's gonna kill him. But the biggest lore revelations that come from the DLC are all about Marika and the Golden Order. Mikola's story is actually insane, but the biggest thing that happens in the DLC is you learn about the Horn Scent, and you learn about Marika's relationship with the Greater Will. So first, the Horn Scent. When Marika is born, she's in the Land of Shadow area, and she's a shaman to the Horn Scent. The Horn Scent basically kill the shaman. They just hate them. They're basically Nazis to the shaman. Horrible people. Horrible. And they think they're superior to these people. They're killing them. Yada yada yada. Putting them in jars as sacrifice to make them gods was the idea. And Marika's like, I'm actually a god, bro. I like that. Becomes Captain Marika, kills all the Nazis. Pretty sick. And then, and then after she kills all the Hornsent, she goes back to her hometown where all the Hornsent used to be and plants a minor urge tree, which is a healing incantation to heal the Hornsent.
Yeah.
Knowing damn well there's none there left. Because she's kind of like that. That was kind of like... It was kind of like when Mr. Fantastic throws a 4s up. It's like, oh, I'm fooling him, you know?
Yeah.
It was hard. It's hard. But the bigger revelation is
in
that...
Dark Souls 2, in PvP, well, in Dark Souls 2, there are these items, that there are these stones that you drop, and they say stuff. And one of them is like, hello. One of them is goodbye. One of them is literally like, you suck. And that's literally what she did with that.
She
did.
In
PvP, if you just fucking smoke somebody, you just drop that stone.
You suck.
You suck.
Then, yeah, but the bigger revelation, because that all of that whole Hornset story in Marika becoming a god is why it sets up what Mikola did. by giving up so much of himself to become a god. But what America does, she becomes a god of the greater will. She follows the Two Fingers guidance for this. The biggest part of lore in the entire game is in the DLC with Mater, the Queen of the Fingers. She's the Finger Mother. She birthed all the fingers in the game except for maybe the Three Fingers. We don't really know where they're from. Whole nother conversation to be had with the Three Fingers. I don't want to do it right now.
I have an idea of what they are, but I'm not positive.
But the Two Fingers and all the little finger creatures that like try to kill you in the palace where you find Renala and all this, like, all those fingers that try to kill you, and the Two Fingers. Those are from the Finger Mother.
Yeah.
She was the first being sent to the lands between from the Greater Will, because there's 2 giant craters in the land. One was from the Elden Beast, and one was from the Finger Mother. It is found out that almost instantly after being sent to the lands between, the Finger Mother's connection to the Greater Will is severed, and so everything that the Two Fingers tells America and all the Finger Crones is just made up by the Finger Mother.
That's crazy.
So the entire game, you're thinking that America is following this giant outer god who's controlling everything, but there's been no connection between her and the Greater Will the entire time. And I think, personally, that's why I believe she was able to shatter the Elden Ring and why she was able to remove the Rune of Death from the Elden Ring. Because I think that if the Greater Will was actually intact, it wouldn't have allowed such a pure, disrespect to something like that. Other lore information is, again, Mesmer being a kid of them, and all those other bits and pieces, mid-drubbing. It's really cool. I think the lore of the DLC was actually an incredible addition, and I think the coolest part of the lore of the DLC is, even though it's an expansion on the main game, it is still based completely off of George R. R. Martin's original story. Yeah. Which I had no idea that that's what happened, but I think it's cool that that was such a complex story that he made this Elden Ring, the main story, having so much lore and being so packed full of everything. I didn't think that the DLC was that very much connected, other than like maybe a few characters, but the entire thing is still based on that.
It's like Elden Ring 2. It was nominated
for a game of the
DLC for a game of the year. It's not even its own standalone
and it's
game.
Huge. It's huge. There's so many people in that DLC, so many fights. I can't talk about all of them.
What I think is crazy is to get to the DLC alone is a thing. Like, in most games, you just go on main menu, you click on DLC, and you just do it. In Elden Ring, you have to beat Radahn, and you have to beat Mohg, and getting to Mohg is not at all obvious, but the amount of people that have played the DLC, that shows how many people really love Elden Ring, and it is so highly, the whole DLC is in a very easily missed side quest, essentially, but it's so much content. It's so good.
Mm-hmm. I think the coolest part about the whole DLC starting was the community before. When we found out that you had to beat Mohg to get to the DLC, there was a renaissance of summoning pools put by Mohg's castle and by Radahn's castle, so people could actually experience DLC. So the people who've beaten this game millions of thousands, however many times, were helping people who are new to the game or new to the series get to the DLC, and I thought that was really cool. Yeah. Like you were saying before too, when you started the game, there was this community that was building of people who had no idea what was going on,
making the wiki.
Mm-hmm. And I was like, it was a really, really sweet moment for the game. But then, counteractively, people would actually what's it called? Go into your game and kill you before fighting Radahn, after finding out Radahn was there, because that was their sweet, glorious King Radahn. They wanted him to live. They were followers of Radahn the same way Freya were, because they were cosplaying. Yeah. And they would kill you before.
Were they all in Radahn armor too?
Yeah, it was
That's so
it was
funny.
it was so fucked up. I
Classic.
never turned on my shit because of that. I said I'm not doing this. I'm
I'm
not.
playing
I
offline
was like,
mode.
I know for a fact I beat you guys because you're idiots. I'm way better at this game than you are.
Yeah.
I was not.
No.
But yeah, no.
FromSoft PvP is insane. It always has been
it's
and always
crazy.
will be.
With the DLC also there was an introduction of like 100 weapons. So many new weapons were put in the game.
Yeah.
And like 6 weapon
And
types were
items.
added.
Yeah.
And items. The fragrance bottles, like I mentioned earlier, they added martial arts skills, which were
Yeah.
freaking cool. A new type of straight sword. It was like a great sword, straight sword mix.
Yeah.
The Milady was in
The
that class.
Milady, yeah. I love that sword. I really want to like drop it onto a new character and play the Milady is a badass sword. I like it.
They gave you the backhand blades, and then there was the throwable. Like
Yeah.
you're basically like Thor. You
Yeah.
could have a Thor build.
The boomerang circles.
Yeah, but then there were circles. There was axes. There was like it was cool. It's a really cool additions to the game when it came to weapons as well. I think that's all of my lore for the DLC. Honestly,
Okay. I have a theory on what I think the true ending is. Let me pull my notes back up. Whoa, baby cat, man. No. Oh. Our producer, please. Give me 1 second.
do you want me to say what my theory was real quick? I'll have a
Yeah.
quick one. So because of the DLC and knowing that Marika and Radigan had children before everything, I don't think Mesmer and Melina are children of Radigan, because I don't think Radigan existed as a person yet. I think that it was before Radigan. I think that Marika somehow gave birth to 2 children that were not connected, and I think that's also why Radigan can exist, is because Marika is able to create life without a second person. And I think when Godwin was born, she saw a child that she wanted. It was the first child she wanted, even after Mesmer and Melina, because they were all afflicted. Every child she had was afflicted before Godwin.
Yeah.
And so she saw Godwin. She was like, "Oh, I want this kid. He's cool." And then was like, "I'm gonna have more kids and see if I can have more people." And it was the first time that her children weren't afflicted. Was Godwin. Then she had Ronnie, and Radon, and Rykard.
Yeah.
And again, she saw another Hyperion in Ronnie, and she's like, "Well, if I can have kids, if Radigan can have kids and make a Hyperion, and I can make a Hyperion, then what if I just made more kids? Maybe I can make another Hyperion." And that did not happen.
What I think, I'm freestyling, but what I think with that, I think Mesmer was. I don't think Mesmer and Melina are full siblings. I think they're half siblings.
Mm-hmm.
I think Mesmer, because. Drop my fucking notes off. Let me just take this from Dome.
DJ
The
D-Rec,
hair-
cut the beat.
The hair means a lot. Like,
Yeah.
the Empyreans are blonde, they're golden. The demigods they have red
hair.
But like Godfrey, all of them, they have gold hair also. And I kind of think, in a way, it's almost like an immaculate conception in a way with Mesmer. I think Radigan and Marika had Mesmer on accident. I don't think Marika knew she could do that. Had Mesmer, and that's why she like banished him. And Melina has brown hair, and I think Melina. I'm
Is
just gonna
Godfrey?
say it. I think Melina is a reincarnation of the Glowmite Queen.
Yeah. So the
And
theory
don't
I
know
saw was
why.
the theory I saw is that she just was. Not even a reincarnation, just like she just was the
I
Glow Mind
think
Queen. But I don't
she
know.
is born from America, and I think that's why there's the giant snake skin that you get the
Mhm.
"Oh Mother" emote from in the Bonnie Village, which was like America's hometown village, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
Yeah.
the snake is part of the Glow-Eyed Queen. I think the Glow-Eyed Queen showed her how to have Radigan, and I think that's why Mesmer has the snakes with him, because he's like a snake.
Oh, you
I
might be
don't
cooking
have
actually.
I don't
You might
have
be
a
cooking.
solid
No, 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 no.
concept
Wait, wait,
on
wait, wait,
this.
wait.
This
Wait,
is
you
just
got,
me
you got it, you
making
got it, you
shit
got it.
up.
I think. Wait, 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 wait. Hear me out. Hear me out. What if, Mel? You know that thing that parents do, when their child is like a life-threatening disease, they have a second child to have get the
Yeah.
stem cells out of the umbilical cord. What if, hear me out? Mesmer is immaculate conception, like whatever, and he's inflicted with the serpent god, whatever, and he's sent to the land of shadow because America's scared of the ability to burn down the Erd tree. Like that is why he's sent
Well,
there to. And he's
this
supposed to go
is
kill the Hornside. Like
this
there's a
is
whole other.
this is what I'm getting at also with this.
Yeah.
I think the Glow-Eyed Queen is the what's the word? The counter to America. I think the Glow-Eyed Queen is the opposite of America, and that's why Melina helps you burn down the Erd tree and do everything that she does in the game, because
Mm-hmm.
she's like a direct line of the Glow-Eyed Queen, and it could even be the Glow-Eyed Queen in America made Melina, but there's so little information on Melina, it's hard to say.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I really believe that they're half siblings.
I could see. I'm thinking. My thing is, I think that I just don't know who. Like, I think the Glowmite Queen being Melina's father, Melina's mom,
Yeah.
makes sense. But I also think that like because of just the connection between Melina and Mesmer, they're the only like out of all the siblings, every sibling in the story has another sibling they're deeply connected to, except for Radon. Radon is somehow seen as the kindest sibling,
Yeah.
which I think is funny. Out of all the demigods, Radon's the nicest.
Yeah.
He's also the most war hungry, so it's just kind of a really big juxtaposition.
Mhm.
But Melina's only sibling that's referenced in the entire story is
Is
Mesmer.
Mesmer. But I also, that's also not exactly true, because Melina and Ronnie are referenced together a lot. I don't have that reference on my top of my head, but they have the same missing eye.
Yeah.
And then in the end game, Melina is pissed if you take the Lord of Frenzy ending.
Yeah. She's really mad.
Yeah.
I'm
But
trying to think.
so my theory on the end of the game is basically I have one quote on my notes that I want to pull out because it's like a direct quote and I don't want to say it wrong, but I'm just going to make it up sort of. My theory on what the true end of the game is Godwin's body taking over all of the lands between. Godwin's body has never stopped growing since he's been cursed. His soul has been dead, but at the base of the Erd tree is his body, and it's growing the death blight all over, and that's what all of the death roots that you're feeding to Malekith. There's so many names, I'm getting so twisted in my brain. That is extensions of Godfrey also. So Godfrey is spreading through the lands between nonstop, and he has half of the curse mark of death. I think Godwin, did I say Godfrey?
Yeah, it's fine. I know what you're talking
Godwin, yeah. So I think Godwin spreading is the true ending, and I think the Age of Stars ending with Ranni is the actual canonical ending, and I think this quote is getting to what I want to get to. Now cometh the age of the stars, 1,000-year voyage under the wisdom of the moon. Here beginneth the chill night that encompasses all, reaching the great beyond, into fear, doubt, and loneliness, as the path stretches into darkness. That's what Ranni says when you become her consort. I think what that is kind of a double entendre meaning. Ranni is bringing the Age of Stars to the lands between and bringing the outer gods in, and I think Godwin's spreading of the death blight is going to kill the Outer Gods and just end everything because of what Ronnie's doing. And Ronnie and Godwin both have the curse mark of death, so their goals are intertwined because they have the same great rune. So they're doing the same thing even if they don't know it. And that's the true ending of Elden Ring.
You son of a bitch.
I just wanted to get that random
Yeah,
quote because I felt
it does make sense narratively because
yeah.
Ronnie's entire intention with her ending is to take away outside forces onto the world, and so the like her intentionally trying to kill outer gods through Deathblight would make sense with the
I don't
narrative.
even think she knows it.
Yeah,
she might know.
She might be doing
that
it. She might be a
part of her
genius.
whole
She might
plan.
be Mikola-esque.
Yeah.
But you know that makes sense to me. I also think that it's with the whole America not being attached to the greater will idea. It's insane to me that the outer gods that are barely mentioned have actually more impact on the world than the greater will, which is the most important god in the entire story.
I just had such a brain blast.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm trying to think on how to say this. I want to look up someone's name real quick. Keep going.
But it is also I kind of skipped this part because I was like, I don't want to say it. But like you become Ronnie's spouse as her consort. Mikola marries his brother Radon, forcefully marries, allegedly. I choose to believe personally that Radon said no to becoming Mikola's consort because he's like, dude, first of all, you're like 5 all the time, and secondly, you're my brother, man. I can't have that. And then he's like, well, watch this. And then yeah, so I believe that kind of Radon did not say yes to it. Did not say yes to the dress, if you will, to become a husband. But you know, it is up for interpretation, I guess, if he did or not. It's just more, what do you think the promise is? I also think a really cool part was Mikola, the entire lore, Mikola in the base game was heavily influenced by Godwin. Which I think is one of the cooler connections is that, again, America's favorite son, Godwin, who is set to become the next god of the world, is Mikola's biggest influence throughout the main game before you even know who he is.
Yeah. Did you do Millicent's story?
Yeah.
So-
She's the one. She has Scarlet Rot. You have to get the unalloyed needle. Help cure her. Yeah.
So Millicent is related to Melania, but she doesn't know if she's a sister, a daughter, or just an offshoot of Melania. And in this game, there are parallels with everything. I kind of feel like Millicent being an offshoot of Melania is Milena being an offshoot of America.
What the hell?
The same
So
way
Melina-
that we were talking about Immaculate Conception and her being Mesmer's sibling, her relating more to Mesmer because Mesmer, I believe, is the first Empyrean, or the first red hair child, which I guess wouldn't be an Empyrean. That would be a demigod. I don't know. I feel like there's something in everything that we have to make the connections that we want to make. Essentially, we can make up whatever we want because we have all of this information that isn't a narrative storyline. But I think that is telling the story of Melina America.
Yeah, I have a one more confession about Elden Ring. My second playthrough. Well, my third playthrough. I just got the regular Jar Shard.
The regular Jar Shard? What are you talking about?
I didn't get the Warrior Jar Shard. I got the regular one.
Oh, where you go and fight the PvP people?
No.
What are you talking about? I don't even know.
So you know how you get the regular? You know how you get the Warrior Jar Shard?
What?
you have to do Alex's story.
I don't know if I've ever done it.
If you beat Alex's story, you do the entire thing. He challenges you to a duel, and it's a very because Alex wants to be the strongest sword, soldier guy.
Yeah.
It's a very beautiful fight. You beat him. He's like, "Thank you so much. I'm really happy. You've made my entire life because you've let me come on this journey with you. Here, take this to my family," and he gives you a piece of his insides. Okay. And then he gives you the Warrior Jar Shard, which is a talisman that raises your L2 attack. Whatever. Okay. So
Ash of War.
Makes it stronger. Ash of War stronger. If you just kill Alex the first time you see him, you get the Jar Shard still. You get a worse Jar Shard. The Warrior Jar Shard. It's only 5% difference in damage. So it's and also, you get Millicent's prosthesis if you finish her quest. if you just don't do the quest and you kill her earlier on too, you get the other one.
Yeah.
Which does the same thing. So I had both of those. I had both of those talisman. My third one, because I was like, I don't really feel like doing these quests right now, but I really like these talisman, and I felt incredible guilt.
Yeah, I would too.
Yeah.
Do you have any more notes on Elden Ring? I'm all out actually.
I think that was about all I had written down for it. Beautiful game. Loved the game. Loved the game to death. I'm probably gonna play it again. I'm playing Dark Souls 3 right now.
Yeah.
It's a hard game. Way harder than Elden Ring. Everyone was right. I was wrong.
Yeah. Dark Souls is... Elden Ring is definitely really hard. It's not something to take lightly. Easy. But Dark Souls, way harder.
I think, again, I want to say that little quote from Miyazaki, talking about the ease of Elden Ring, talking about how the freedom of the open world, nature of Elden Ring perhaps lowered the barrier to entry, and I might be the one who's benefiting most from that as a player more than anyone else, saying that this is probably the easiest Souls-like game, but it's still very hard, and I'm probably benefiting off of being the easiest by anyone else playing the game because I'm not good at video games. Yeah. That's the guy who made the game.
Yeah.
So, yeah, other than that, I think I have said everything I had written down.
Yeah, so this has been Astral FM. You can follow us on Instagram at Astral FM. Maybe pod. I don't know. Did you make it?
I'm gonna make it right now.
Okay. Well, we will have the Instagram you can follow us at. I am Chainsaw FM on all socials: Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. This is.
All of mine are the same as Apricot.
You can send us an email at astralfmpod@gmail.com if you have any suggestions on episodes you want to see us cover, or you want to just tell us about your day. So, until next time, it's gamer time.
Absolutely.
We'll workshop that.
We'll figure this out. I think next week we'll have a new episode, hopefully the same day we drop this one. So, yeah. This has been Astral FM with Apricot and Chainsaw. Astral FM.
Who farted?
Chainsaw, clean your room! The Astral FM. Give me a beat. Got it. Astral FM. Yeah. Astral FM. Yeah.